Well, thank you very much, Mayor Durkin. Thank you for the introduction that you remembered to do when you saw me standing off the stage looking bewildered. But thank you more than anything else for your leadership on education. Mayor Durkin and I were talking in her office one day, and she said to me, I didn't run as the education mayor, but if you're a mayor in the 21st century, you realize that every mayor in America is the education mayor, because we have such a stake in public education and to make sure our students do well. I want to thank Sally Yates and Lisa Chick for their leadership and your sponsors, and can we give it up again for the Robert Eagle Middle School Jazz Band? It is exciting to see such great support for the work of the Alliance. The board roster reads like an honor roll of companies and organizations that care deeply about the future of our region and recognize that investments in our students today will pay great dividends in the future. And Mayor Durkin, your vision of a complete and inclusive education system that builds economic opportunity and better pathways to good paying jobs. But I also want to remind us why our advocacy and support for students is so crucial. Yes, it's about getting access to jobs, but it's not about test scores, and it's not even about the reputation of your school district. We want our children to grow up into responsible adults who are considerate and who don't just survive, but thrive. Because today, too often, even in this prosperous region where we live, too many of our kids are denied the opportunity to live up to their full potential. Institutional racism, structural racism, lack of intergenerational wealth, parents who struggle, a whole host of historical barriers that are still all too real today. But there is hope, and I want to share with you the amazing story of my hometown, Tacoma, Washington, where I had the honor of serving as mayor for 2 terms. And I want to start with a quote. Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave who became a prominent activist, author, and public speaker. And here's what he said. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So I'll set the stage for you. In Tacoma, when I was first elected mayor, USA Today newspaper dubbed Tacoma a dropout factory. Our high school graduation rate was a dismal 55%, and it was even lower for students of color. It was totally unacceptable. No, it was embarrassing, not just to me, but to every single person in our community. And it was that proverbial wake-up call. So we made a commitment to change. We made improving education a civic priority. And here's what we didn't do. We didn't point fingers at the school system and say to them, you need to do better. We realized that every single organization in our city had a role to play in education. Yes, clap. On that long continuum from pre-K to 16, we know that there are many entry points for dysfunction. But we also know there are opportunities to try and lift up our students, support our teachers, and come together as a community. Parents and teachers joined in. The city of Tacoma took a leadership role. And I remember when I was running for mayor and I talked about making education a civic priority, I was told more often than not that I was running for the wrong job. They said, hey lady, you better run for the school board because city government has nothing to do with education. And my reply was this. City government has such a stake in education. If we want to reduce crime, if we want to raise our unemployment rate, if we want to make sure that people have opportunity, we must pay attention to education. And we're lucky because we had business, philanthropy, NGOs, social services, everyone decided it was time to step up. And there's some few examples I want to share with you. The Tacoma Housing Authority understood that mobility was a big issue in some of our schools where the turnover rate was 100%. These kids moved around all the time. So they worked with HUD to create a voucher system. And if parents agreed to stay put for 5 years, they would subsidize their housing for them. This gave students a chance for stability. And the test scores and the reading scores proved it was effective. When I had a summer jobs program, I didn't just want to get students jobs somewhere, We want it to be robust and significant. So we developed a program where students who were behind credits for graduation were able to retrieve credits, where we provided financial literacy training, resume building, and soft skills, the skills that people often say are lacking when kids apply for jobs. To date, there have been about 1,000 students who've gone through that program, and some of them were actually hired by the employers that they worked with. That's how you come together as a community. We also got over our fear of data. And often when you are a public entity, you don't like to let people look under the cover to see how bad things are. But in order to solve the problem, we had to identify it, we had to own it, and we had to say we can make it better. And that's exactly what Tacoma did. But that didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because we knew that we needed to have strong board leadership and strong, steady, consistent leadership at the superintendent level. Without those things, a school district will not progress. And I'm excited about the opportunity that Seattle has here today and how the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce can be a partner with you in making that happen. Now, Tacoma invested in training staff, student counseling, special programs, mentorships, arts, culture, all the things we know that need to happen. Because here's the truth about students. So much of what happens outside the classroom affects what happens when they arrive at school every day. So how are we addressing some of the most profound needs? And it's interesting when you think about what people need in general, but especially our students. They need two things. They need to feel safe, and they need to feel loved. And those things sound so basic, but if you think about some of the most profound challenges that some of our students face every single day, they feel neither safe nor loved. So it's up to us as a community to try and replicate those things and help our students feel safe and loved. Now, the work that you're doing, what the Alliance is doing, is a huge benefit to Seattle Public Schools and to our communities. And as I said earlier, the school district cannot do it alone. They need every single organization in this city to get behind them and ask the question, what can I do to help you meet your goals? What can I do to help a student today? What can I do to help make Seattle Public Schools more successful? But as the CEO of the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, I also know this. Business has a significant role to play when it comes to education. Our members can provide internships. We can donate to philanthropy. We can support school board members who we know want to do really good work. We can use our voice to amplify the need for students who do well in this city and in this entire region. Now, whenever I end presentations, I like to use lists. So let me share with you a list of things that I would do to improve public education. And let me wrap up the story about Tacoma. 55% was the graduation rate in 2010. In 2017, Tacoma Public Schools now has an 86% graduation rate. And it wasn't an accident. I think there are times when we talk about public education and we act like it's so mysterious. There's nothing mysterious about having children feel safe and loved. There's nothing mysterious about supporting teachers. But here's the other thing we don't talk about. Leadership matters. And I'm a little biased because my husband's a high school principal. But here's the deal. When you hire a principal for a building, you are hiring the person who sets the tone, the culture, who hires and makes sure that there is a vision that every single person who works in that building is adhering to. So when you all think about leadership, we love our teachers and we are eternally grateful for what they do, but principal leadership matters. So think about who is being hired when it comes to running the buildings in your schools. So I know that we are constrained by budgets, but if I had a wish list, here's what I'd love to do for public education. Invest in more guidance counselors. And I say this because on average, most counselors have a caseload that is really, really demanding and almost absurd. If we could triple the number of counselors in every single building, imagine how much attention our students would get, and imagine how administration would be freed up to focus on vision and running the building. Invest in more counselors. Think carefully about building or principal leadership. And I liken it to this. The Seattle Public School District is like the parent company, and each individual school is like a brand. So let's pretend Seattle Public Schools is Nabisco. There's Oreo, there's Ritz, there are all these yummy cookies and treats, there's animal crackers. Well, every single school represents a brand, and each principal is the CEO of that particular line of business. Let's make sure that we hire the right people to be principals. If I could have my way, I would require these two things for graduation: the ability for every student who gets a diploma to compose a letter or a one-page essay about any topic. I would also insist on the ability to balance a checkbook or do simple math. That should be a requirement for graduation. I have never used calculus in my life for anything, but I know it's important. But just the simple things you need to do to function as a responsible adult in this society. And then finally, I will say this: let's do a better job of helping our students with the soft skills: conflict resolution, how to work in teams, how to speak and write in complete sentences, how to communicate. Because working with a lot of employers, one of the top complaints that I hear is that the students who come to try to apply for jobs don't have the soft skills. And it's something as simple as showing up on time for a meeting. So let's talk about the soft skills and why they matter so much. Because at the end of the day, whatever you do in this life, if you cannot communicate and interact with other people, it's not going to work itself out very well. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my story about Tacoma and to share with you what I believe can improve public education. And with all of us, our students can graduate, they can have a plan for life after high school, and they can become those responsible adults who contribute positively to our communities each and every day. Yes, with us, they can. Thank you.